Hey guys, welcome to the channel, and what I have for you today is the review of another monitor. This time it is the Gigabyte AORUS FO32U2P. This is a 32-inch 4K QD OLED flat monitor, and for those of you that saw the Alienware QD OLED monitor review I did a couple of weeks ago, well yes, this is a very similar monitor to that. In fact, it is competing with that monitor, and once again I'm going to be talking about the performance of this particular monitor when it comes to console gaming. Now, a small disclaimer: I have a pretty decent history with monitors, as I spoke about in the Dell Alienware monitor review, and you guys can definitely go and check that out to understand where I'm coming from as a console gamer, because ever since I moved out of my parents' house and I was living in a small place of my own, I had a monitor for console gaming rather than a TV, because back in 2009-10 when I was doing this, it was just much more convenient to have a flat screen monitor in a small space rather than a CRT TV. Because yes, believe it or not, back in 2009-10 CRT TVs and bigger size TVs were still more popular, and to get the best gaming experience from my PS3 and Xbox 360 in those days, and subsequently from the PS4 and Xbox One, I was gaming on a monitor until I started living in a house big enough to have this LG B9 TV as my primary gaming TV, and I have reviewed this as well on the channel in case you guys want to go check that out. So with that out of the way, let's again clarify one very important thing about this monitor. This is a 4K QD OLED monitor with a 240Hz refresh rate, targeted at PC gamers with DisplayPort 2.1, a feature which is very new, to the point where if you buy this monitor as a PC gamer, you are future proofing yourself, because at 240Hz 4K DisplayPort 2.1 is something you can take advantage of, and I'm sure most of you watching this review probably don't even have a GPU that's capable of DisplayPort 2.1. So this is a very future-proof monitor, and for those of you that are looking at it from a PC gamer's perspective, I highly recommend going and checking out the review by Monitors Unboxed. They have really dived deep into the features that DisplayPort 2.1 brings and how it may not necessarily be the best option right now for some of you, and in some other cases it may be the monitor that you are looking for depending on your use case. So yes, if you're a PC gamer, then that is a video to watch. For this video, I'm going to be focusing on the consoles I have, which is the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. How do these consoles perform on this monitor? Is it overkill, or if you're someone that has a PC and one of these consoles, is this the perfect monitor for you? So let's quickly get a few comparative points out of the way with the Alienware QD OLED monitor that I reviewed earlier. So the first advantage that the Gigabyte has over the Dell is that this comes with two speakers, 5-watt speakers, and I feel having just simple speakers is better than having no speakers, because the Dell monitor did not have any speakers. So if you're watching a YouTube video, you just want to show something to someone in the house and you don't have speakers around you, if you're someone that uses headphones, then this monitor has speakers built in. They aren't great, but they get the job done if you want to show someone a video, or there's just someone else who needs to see something quickly without you attaching speakers. The second advantage that this monitor has is that it has a 3.5mm output for audio. The Dell Alienware had a different advantage because that had eARC output. So if you were setting up that monitor as an entertainment monitor with a sound bar, then yes, the Dell had eARC for you to connect, let's say, the Sonos Beam Gen 2, which is a nice compact sound bar. I've reviewed that on the channel as well. You guys can go and check it out. But this one has a 3.5mm output. So if you have something like, let's say, the Mackie CR5 BTs, which are a great pair of studio monitors that I have used, then yes, you can connect them via 3.5mm to this monitor. An advantage that the Dell monitor has is that supports Dolby Vision, and this Gigabyte does not. So if Dolby Vision is important to you, then you can go the Dell route, but this monitor does support HDR10, and it is absolutely fantastic. And personally, as a user, I did not find the absence of Dolby Vision lacking, especially when it comes to this monitor. Now, another advantage that I'm not going to call out for either one of the monitors, because this is a very use case specific monitor, is that the Dell Alienware QD OLED monitor was a curved monitor, and if you're someone that's just going to sit at a particular distance, you do get a slightly more immersive experience with a curved monitor. However, the Gigabyte is flat, and personally I prefer a flat monitor, but like I said, this is a pro for both of them. It just depends on your use case. Last but not the least, and I don't know for whom this is a big advantage, but this monitor also has a tactile switch which means that if you are consuming content on the 32-inch screen, you just have a physical button, you just press the tactile switch, and you immediately get a 24-inch screen on the 32-inch monitor. There are black borders on 3 sides, and this kind of could be a more immersive experience if you want to be up close inside the monitor, let's say to play a game like Counter-Strike or anything to do with esports, and you want to be more focused in your peripheral vision as well. You want a slightly smaller screen, then yes, maybe that may be a use case for you, but it's nice to have it out here. I have seen it once before on a Sony TV where you do get a smaller screen in the window of a big screen. Whether it's a feature that you will exploit or not is entirely up to you. So those are some of the key differences from my perspective between the Dell and the Gigabyte monitor. When it comes to the price, the Dell 32-inch QD-OLED curved gaming monitor is priced at about 1,05,000 rupees, and this one, the Gigabyte, is priced close to 1,30,000 rupees as of me making this video. So there is a considerable amount of margin between the two. I wouldn't think 30,000 rupees to be a small amount to make a purchase decision. Now, once again, I'd like to reiterate that this comes with DisplayPort 2.1, a feature that's not there in the Alienware monitor, and as PC gamers, this may be more important to you, but I am coming from a console gamer's perspective. Keeping a console gamer's perspective in mind, there are a couple of televisions that you can also get in this price point, and I'm just going to quickly tell you a few options which are very close to the 1,30,000 rupee price point. Remember, none of these TVs come with a DisplayPort, let alone DisplayPort 2.1. They may come with 3 or 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, and that is something that should be more important for you as a console gamer. So first up, we have Samsung's 48-inch S90D, which is a QD OLED TV, and it's priced at about 1.2 lakh rupees. LG has the C4 in 2 sizes. So you have the 48-inch C4 priced at about 1,06,000 rupees as of me making this video, and I saw the prices on Chroma's online website. And you have the LG C4 in a 55-inch variant priced at about 1.5 lakh rupees. So very close to that 1.3 lakh rupee price point. And yes, if you are a console gamer and if you do have the kind of space to put up a television, even a 48-inch one, it will give you a better experience, because like you will see on a lot of other reviews of this monitor where they do compare it to the LG C4, the LG C4 can get a little brighter than this TV when it comes to brightness. We'll talk more about that in the performance section. But yes, there is a very big use case for this monitor, which is if you need something that fits on a desk, if you need something that fits with your PC or your laptop along with a console that you have, or even if you have both the consoles and a PC, this monitor can suit you, because when it comes to connectivity options, this monitor is a beast. So yeah, let's quickly jump into the connectivity options now that we've started talking about it, and some specifications. So it's a 32-inch QD OLED panel with a 240 Hz refresh rate and a 0.3 ms response time. Gray to gray is what the spec sheet of the monitor says. It has 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, which means that if you have a PS5 and an Xbox Series X, you can connect both of them together without having to switch around like on the Dell, because one of the ports was EARC on the Dell. It also has one DisplayPort 2.1 port, one DisplayPort 1.4 port, one mini DisplayPort 2.1 port, one Type-C port with a power delivery of 65 watts, 2 USB 3.2 downstream ports, one USB 3.2 upstream port, one headphone jack and a microphone jack separately. So if you want speakers and a mic connected separately, it has separate ports for that. You can have a PC connected to it along with the 2 consoles, and you can daisy chain monitors as well. I mean, when it comes to the features, this monitor just blows everything else out of the park. If you're someone that's going to exploit all the features on offer, this monitor is definitely going to be a bang for buck, value for money proposition for you. And even in the box, apart from the monitor and the stand, you get a bunch of cables. You get an HDMI 2.1 cable, you get a DisplayPort 2.1 cable, you get a Type-C cable, you get a USB cable. It's just fully loaded what you get in the box with you. Now, when we talk about the performance, I connected both the consoles to the monitor, and before I delve into my experience, yes, some of you commented on the Dell Alienware monitor review that it only has HDR 400 certification, which is true. But if you look at the video on Monitor Unboxed, or even if you go to ratings.com and see that this monitor as well as the Alienware can hit about 1000 nits of peak brightness in the 2% window, and when it comes to the 10% window and beyond, the brightness really does come down, hovering around the 400 nits mark. But honestly, in my experience, it performed better than this LG B9 that's behind me for some games and some sequences. So let's quickly jump into gaming. Now, the standard suite of games that I played on this monitor is very similar to what I played on the Dell monitor, so I have a point of comparison. Starting off with Ratchet and Clank on the PS5, this is such a beautiful and vibrant game. It just looks like you're playing a Disney animated movie, and that was the experience out here with all the explosions just being that much more immersive. It's just a very beautiful experience to have on this monitor. Moving over to Gran Turismo 7, and I can't wait. Maybe if I can get my hands on a PS5 Pro, I'll probably be able to check out this game in that much more detail, because GT7 is just really beautiful. If you're playing a race in the day or if you're playing a race in the night, just the visuals of the cars on the screen, it can give you that very immersive experience. And the fact that this game is one of those few that does well in HDR, if you're playing in, let's say, a night race with a lot of lights all over the place, or if it's a day race with the sun streaming down on the tracks, it just looks absolutely beautiful. Now, Dirt 5 is an HGIG game to see how well this monitor performs, and HGIG is one of the features that this monitor does support. And I can tell you that Dirt 5 also looks absolutely sublime with the sun streaming down on the track, and you can make out all the specular highlights very clearly. So it's great. Even a game like Alan Wake 2, which is a dark game, and I said this in the Dell monitor review as well, and it holds true out here. Sequences that I could not make out on this TV are very clear on that monitor. It is not about having elevated black levels, it's just about having better clarity in the dark sequences, and that is just the advantage of having a QD-OLED panel on the monitor, more than just the peak brightness, because the contrast level of both an OLED TV and this monitor are going to be the same. It's just that those details in the darker sequences was a lot better on this monitor. Same for Spider-Man 2. I mean, if you look at, Spider-Man's suit itself, or the, when you're swinging through the city and you have this blinding sun coming up, or if you're even in one of the night sequences, everything is just so crystal clear. It's like looking through a window more than actually playing on a monitor. The same holds true for the Xbox. Now, once you calibrate it with the Xbox, you can actually make out the differences, and I highly recommend Xbox gamers to actually go into the HDR settings and calibrate the monitor, because the level of detail that you can see post calibration is just that much better, and this holds true for both the games that I played. Gears 5, again, there's this dark cave from which you enter into the sequence that I always play when I test TVs and monitors, and when you come out also, you can make out all the details in the dark and the bright sequences, and there is no flashiness, so to speak. And yes, once the action kicks in, it's all very smooth. Same for Doom Eternal. The monitor just performs beautifully, and you can actually switch on the refresh rate in the top right corner of the monitor through the settings, something that I've done, and you may have noticed it in all this footage, and that's something I recommend doing, because you will know the frame rate that you're at. Doom Eternal is something that's really locked to 120 FPS. Spider-Man 2, even Uncharted, a game that I played for some time on the PS5, does kind of have a fluctuating frame rate, and you can make that out, and it's because of VRR that the monitor looks great. Now, I know there are some other reviews on the website which say that there is a bit of VRR flickering on this monitor, but I couldn't make it out on the consoles while gaming on this monitor. So it's just a testament to how easy the monitor is to use. Since a lot of these games are in HDR, you can actually choose between different HDR modes. If I can just tell you the modes, it's HDR, HDR game, HDR movie, HDR HLG, and HDR vivid. And for 99% of my time with this monitor, I just left it on HDR game, because I felt like that was the preset setting that I could just leave it on when playing games to know that I was getting the best output. Yes, I did try different modes for different scenarios, and if you're someone that's going to connect to your console and probably consume content on Netflix or Prime Videos, you can use the HDR movie mode. But there was a point when I just put it on HDR game and just forgot about it, and that was kind of the best of all worlds as a preset mode for me when I wasn't actually testing the monitor, but just enjoying content on it. Speaking of regular content, when we take a look at, let's say, Fallout, the TV show on Amazon Prime, where the protagonist is leaving the vault, it is just this big stream of sunlight coming in. She's being exposed to the outside world for the first time, and that's a feeling you get when you are watching this content on good HDR TV, which has really good peak brightness, because the sun streaming in should blind you also a little bit, like it's blinding the protagonist. And that's exactly how I felt while watching content on this monitor. I was sitting about 3 feet away from the monitor, just to give you an idea of how far I was from it, and it kind of gave me a really immersive experience. Same thing for Top Gun Maverick. I mean, at the end of the movie, you have this really nice dogfighting sequence, and it just looks absolutely sublime on this monitor. Even if you play YouTube HDR content, the colors just pop. But it's an SDR content also where this monitor really shines. Now, Young Sheldon is a great show on Prime Video. It is in SDR, and it has this family-friendly color palette, so to speak, and it just looks nice. Like, the colors don't necessarily pop in a vivid way, they are slightly muted, but that's exactly how they're meant to be in this TV show, and it just looks really good. Same thing for Spider-Man Homecoming on Netflix. It's in SDR. And if you watch the sequence with the Washington Monument, the reds and blues in Spider-Man's suit just pop in this natural backlit environment, kind of a day environment. And you also have some yellows and blues thrown into the mix in the environment. So these are colors where you can really make out a shift quite easily, but it all just looks fairly accurate and sublime. Same thing for Mission Impossible, where you have Tom Cruise on his bike, this bike chase sequence that I always watch. And there are some budget TVs and monitors where, the characters in the movie look like they have jaundice just because of the yellowish color palette of the backdrop. But here the colors were actually very good, and it looked really nice. So if you're someone that's going to consume content on this monitor, you will be fairly happy with it. Yes, there are TVs that can have a higher peak brightness, but then TVs are built to have that home entertainment kind of an experience. A monitor is something that you get up close and personal with, and for what this monitor offers, I think it's a great proposition. So if we had to conclude and tell you whether you should be someone that's considering to purchase this monitor, I would just ask you one question: is, do you do only console gaming like me, or are you a PC gamer as well and you use a PC with a monitor every day? Because if you're someone that does only console gaming, it makes sense to get that slightly bigger 42-inch OLED TV from a manufacturer, or a 48-inch OLED TV, because it just doubles up as a TV and gives you that larger screen experience while exploiting the features on offer on a console, because a console cannot make the most of DisplayPort 2.1, which this monitor offers, which is a great feature for PC gamers. But if you are a PC gamer, then I think that this is probably a very good future-proof investment, because you do get DisplayPort 2.1. Once again, there are other videos that explain the benefits and these features in a lot more detail. But the biggest advantage is that when you have a PC, and if you have both the consoles as well, you can connect them to this one device alone, because it has two HDMI 2.1 ports and display ports, and you can daisy chain monitors with it. I mean, this is one that's for professionals and gamers in one package on one desk, where you don't need to, run around removing cables or buying external adapters. I still remember in the first 2 monitors that I had, I needed an HDMI switcher so that I could connect more devices, and that just led to a little more input lag when gaming. And I mean, the fact that the connectivity options on this monitor are so robust is probably one big reason to get it, even if you're someone that is a PC gamer, does not care so much about DisplayPort 2.1 right now, DisplayPort 2.1 right now, and needs two HDMI 2.1 ports for the 2 consoles. The Alienware monitor has its advantages with its curved, be more immersive EARC support, and it just becomes a very personal decision. I prefer flat screen, so I would go for the Gigabyte, but I can tell you that the curve in the Alienware just gives you that much more of an immersive experience as a single user. So there you have it, guys. That was my review of the Gigabyte AORUS FO32U2P 32-inch QD OLED gaming monitor. As always, you can let me know what you thought of this video in the comment section below. And for more from the world of home entertainment, you can subscribe to the channel. This is me, Samir, signing off. I will catch you in another video. It's goodbye for now.